David, a significant moment, this recognition now a formality.
Yeah, I mean, we knew this was coming, Gemma, but it's a big step, big diplomatic step nonetheless from Australia, the United Kingdom and Canada, working in concert, a coordinated, simultaneous declaration here. Technically, all they had to do was announce it. The Prime Minister here on the grounds of the United Nations, Keir Starmer back home, and Mark Carney just in a written statement. What this does now is formally declare that these three countries are amongst those now who recognise a Palestinian state, no longer referring to it as the occupied Palestinian territories. And they're doing this, these three US allies together, knowing this puts them at odds with the Trump administration and knowing that clearly there's going to be backlash from Israel. What you just heard from Benjamin Netanyahu, this won't happen. There won't be a Palestinian state. I'll have a further response in the coming days. That creates some uncertainty as to what that further response might be and whether it will include further expansion of settlements in the West Bank, for example. But these leaders have done this fully aware of the consequences. But they hope this will start to create a pathway towards peace, build some momentum towards that long talked about but not delivered two-state solution.
Have we had any reaction from Washington so far on this? And David, do you think this is going to affect the upcoming meeting between Donald Trump and Anthony Albanese?
Look, we saw yesterday a group of about 25 Republican members of Congress issue an open letter expressing their criticism of this step being taken by Australia, Canada and the United Kingdom. We've not heard directly from Donald Trump in response. He's been, of course, at the Charlie Kirk funeral today, but you would expect that perhaps tonight or in the coming days we will hear some sort of response from the President. When this came up, when he was alongside Keir Starmer in London, yes, he clearly has a disagreement on this, but it wasn't a particularly strong reaction. There's no suggestion it was to rupture the relationship between the UK and the United States. And I think the Australian government also feels this is not going to derail the bilateral relationship between Australia and the United States. However, it is another sticking point. It's another problem of sorts in that relationship, and the two leaders, as we know, are yet to schedule any sort of sit-down meeting here in New York.
David, I know this question has come up a lot over the last few months, but it is coming up again today. What is the purpose of this recognition of a Palestinian state, and what will it mean in practice?
Look, in practice, all it does is, right now at least, change the way the Australian government officially in all its documents and so on refers to Palestine as a state, not occupied territories. But at this stage, we're not setting up an embassy or sending an ambassador. Those are steps that would come down the track if the Palestinian Authority keeps its end of the bargain. The commitments it's made, the Prime Minister likes to repeat, are that there's no role for Hamas. Hamas is disarmed. There's an election. The Palestinian people get to choose democratically who they want to govern that state of Palestine, and there's recognition of Israel's right to peace and security. So if there's progress on those commitments from the Palestinian Authority, and it must be said, there are questions as to the PA's legitimacy and how much support it has amongst the Palestinian people. But if there's progress on those commitments, then you'd see some of those further steps like setting up an embassy. And of course, we're a long way from seeing any borders negotiated around a Palestinian state as well.
Finally, David, more than 100 countries have joined this Australia-led declaration for the protection of humanitarian personnel. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this happened just on the lawns right near where I'm standing here on the grounds of the UN just a little while ago. It's an Australian-led initiative. Follows, of course, the killing of Zomi Francom, the Australian aid worker in Gaza. There have been hundreds of aid workers killed in Gaza, nearly 700 in conflict zones worldwide just last year, but a lot of those in Gaza. And more than 100 countries have signed this declaration, which essentially says there needs to be much more importance and weight placed on protecting aid workers, humanitarian personnel. And a lot of those who spoke at the event were directing their criticism at Israel in particular. So the fact that's happened here today, when this formality of declaring Palestinian recognition, obviously this is all aimed at putting further pressure on Israel as well.